the first time that I get to say that on the Self Care is My Job podcast in
Mm.
like 4 years. I used to say that all the time as soon as I would do like a live episode. And it's really fitting that me and Margaret are here doing a live episode together because all the original episodes used to be live. And just these episodes that I'm going to be recording today with the authors of Power Within, Somatic and Spiritual Stories of Resilience, are going to be live episodes. So I love the synchronicity here.
Me
Um,
too.
yeah, isn't that great? So, and there's
Yes.
so many other like little cool, like divine little nods about this that we could talk about. But like, I want to say hello to whoever is watching. My name is Samantha Long. I am a somatic self-care coach, and I am the host of the Self Care is My Job podcast. And me and Margaret, and I believe 10 or 11 other authors became published authors today, maybe for the first time, maybe not for the first time, with a book that released today that is on Amazon for purchase. It is called The Power Within, Somatic and Spiritual Stories of Resilience. And it is an anthology collection of essays from women just like us who have experienced challenge and struggle and trauma and have resiliently thrived, survived, and then thrived and grown through those experiences. And we are sharing in our essays all about that experience. So we're here. So welcome, Margaret. I'm really happy that we get to have a chat today. I think
Thank
it's only
you.
fitting for us to sit here and connect. Do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and maybe even a little bit about what, like the urge or calling you had to write and to share your story?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I love the title of this anthology. It's so perfect for what each of us has contributed. Yeah, I do a lot of shamanic healing, and that came out of my childhood of being like really psychic, really sensitive, experiencing a lot of overwhelming sensations in the body, and moments of a lot of spiritual kind of access that I didn't know how to harness, and I didn't know what to do with for quite a while. And once I knew how to kind of activate and connect deeply with my own self, then I was able to kind of broadcast that energy for healing and for connection. And that was kind of the intro into how I was going to live basically the rest of my life with more connection and authenticity around what it's like to be a sensitive psychic woman in modern day culture, because it can often feel very isolating. It can feel very confusing. It can feel very, we can get closed off. We can feel like we don't fit in. There's so much that kind of gets very loud when we're out in the world, and that can scramble our thoughts, and I'm passionate about us staying connected and tuned into what I would call like our highest timeline and purpose.
Oh my God, of course. Um, I'm just curious for anyone who's listening that might be also curious, like, what is shamanic healing for the people who might want, like, kind of vaguely understand what that is, but might want just a little bit more?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think it means different things to different people and to different practitioners. It's
Mm-hmm.
essentially psychic healing, and I think we each have that aspect of ourselves in us. The way that I do it is I just kind of see things in and around people, kind of with my third eye. Sometimes I will actually see it, or sometimes I will hear it kind of internally. Sometimes I'll actually hear it. And it's that moment of going, oh my gosh, I feel an opening. I feel a big energy. I feel a big moment. And I'm going to go there and talk about what I see, if even if it feels difficult. And that usually opens it to what is being called from these upper dimensions to kind of earth, and heal in the actual body. That's where the somatics comes in. Like we're here on the third dimension and we're in our bodies. We don't live up here only in in the psychic realm, right? Not only in the spiritual realm.
Yeah. No, thank you. That was such like a perfect explanation, and I love it because, with what you just said, the fact is we can connect to what's beyond us through the channel of feeling or through the experience of actually feeling. And so when we talk about, this is so interesting, I love it to like kind of um, structure this for maybe listeners a little bit, where it's like, okay, well, we're talking about psychic, yes, intuition, connecting to messages or energies that are kind of beyond the 3D. But how do we do that? And, so people might have heard, the concept of like clairvoyant or clairsentient or things like that. And so obviously those are all, intuitive abilities that are connected to our senses, like your clairvoyant, I believe, is like just like a general sensing, like something that's coming through. Clairsentient is more about like feeling and sensation in the body, whether it and your senses, like your smell, your hearing, things. You might hear something, you might smell something. So the reason that I'm saying that is that as a somatic coach, one of the things that I will do all the time is offer my clients an experience of connecting to your senses as a way to ground and come into your body. And not that we don't want to eventually, yes, like grow and ascend to a place where you are more closely connected to your intuition so that can guide you, but it's guiding you through being present in your somatic experience in your body, to the sensations in your body. Like we, and unfortunately we do experience trauma, whether it's large scale, smaller scale, whether it's something very acute, whether it's something that's very chronic over time, whether it's now or it happened in your childhood. And that's where we lose that connection. I think that that's like a through line for the book through all of our stories, is that we have all experienced something at some point that took us away from that either intuitive connection, somatic experience and connection, both, right? And then these stories are about how you not only come back, but you come back even more connected. Does that like resonate for you in a way, as far as your contribution to the book, but also like your life?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm always about like, we can always allow ourselves to go deeper. We can always allow our senses in the feeling in the body to go deeper. And I also always tell my clients like your child self was right. Your child self knew. Your child self is still here, right? And it's sort of like that's often what our essence is. That's often in terms of like our psychic like reconnection, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's I'm very passionate about reconnecting again to like the remembrance of the feelings that we feel in the body and allowing those to go deeper, get bigger, expand. And we're always looking for the opening, right? We're always looking for the opening for so we can get the reconnection can happen from again like up here to in the body. And it
Mm-hmm.
becomes this beautiful sort of like toroidal current where the more we connect out, like you were saying, we want to connect up to our highest aspect of who we are, to the highest aspect of the energies that are calling us forth. And we want to go back in deeper and to our true self, right? That authentic place is
Mm-hmm.
known, that place of knowing.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, my chapter in the book begins with like 8-year-old Sam that would sing in the living room when no one was around, and just knew that that was something special, and that was something that I should continue doing, that felt so good, that literally like felt like this internal massage, like every time I tried to hit those big notes. And then the really affirming and like beautiful feeling that would come over me when I would, be able to hit those notes, and not even that it needed to sound great, but when I would, that moment of being like pleased with yourself, right? And so
Yes.
my story is very much about how when I got the courage as a young kid to sort of lean into that, it was very quickly squashed by a lot of negativity, and quite frankly, um, really it was about past intergenerational trauma based in fear, and
Mhm.
not having my, family be ready for that type of expansion. And
Mhm.
again, out of fear, because, the archetype of the struggling artist, like how are you going to make a living doing
Yeah.
that type of thing.
Mhm.
But my point is that writing the chapter gave me this opportunity to walk in the shoes of that 8-year-old girl, and it was quite an experience, right?
Mhm.
But it was a reminder, and of something that I also tell my clients all of the time. Like, don't you remember just knowing? Don't you remember just knowing when you were young something that felt right to you? And like, where did we go wrong? But again, we do get, unfortunately, disconnected from our truth based on limiting belief systems that come and take over. And of course, they're going to take over because it gives us, an opportunity to fit in and sort of obtain a false sense of belonging when we
Mhm.
follow what everybody else says we're supposed to do. And we end up kind of moving away from what felt initially so right. Um, and there's, plethoras of examples of this, beyond just like the loss of your connection to creativity, and art and things like that, which is something that I'm particularly so passionate about. But do you have something comparable that's coming up for you with that, as far as like what we disconnect from? In your case, potentially it is that, like, kind of just like sense of knowing, right, where it just feels right. But, like, I always feel like in this book, there is that moment of disconnect, and then how do we get it back?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the rub. That's the mission of our lives, right? Like it's definitely, I mean, something that I remember one of my mentors telling me is darkness loves the light. We are kind of in this spiritual battle, honestly, and it's on many different levels. So, yes, there is generational trauma. Yes, there is modern culture, and there are just, there are boogies out there that are really, they kind of interfere with our light, and it's because it is people are uncomfortable about passion, and people get uncomfortable about light. People get uncomfortable being told truths. People get uncomfortable when there's a mirror held up. So most of us, we are on the path, and we are devoted, and we're doing the work, and it's still hard because we are the ones that are sort of creating this and also doing the work. Like I was just saying, like it's not like we're just hanging out and eating bonbons. We're working really hard to create the most authentic and empowered path for, I mean, for people that we love and we meet and we connect with. And it is a true calling, and it's not an easy one, but it is a powerful one.
Yeah, it is. And it's hard, right, to stay on that path. Like, I think the people who have either felt and experienced pain and trauma, and or like, kind of, I always say, for me, like, part of the reason I want to help people heal so deeply is because growing up I looked around and I just saw so much pain, and
Mhm.
so much, specifically, disconnection from feeling and from
Mhm.
presence, and
Mhm.
sort of chaotic loops of like rage and
Mhm.
um blame and shame, and so much of that. And it is. It's hard to stay on the path. It's hard for us healers. We need as much self-care as everyone else, right?
Hmm.
This ended, and I said this on the call earlier about the book, like, we wrote it in service initially, right? Like, or at least that's
Hmm.
how I'm
Yeah.
feeling it, right? Like, it's a service, and then it serves us right back as we're writing it. I mean, I had to take out so much of my chapter because I was going down so many avenues, which ultimately ended up, even though it was like painful to go down these storylines of what like actually happened and how it happened and this, and I also got to go down storylines of other experiences where I did receive the best examples and mentorships and guidance, and was like down these roads of like, oh my God, but I'm so grateful for these characters that showed up in my story because I never would have found it. And so it's the same thing, like when I think about the characters that showed up, right? As interesting as it is, like, beginning of my personal development story was like Rachel Hollis and Brene Brown, right? And I still love
Hmm.
my Brene, like.
Yeah.
And so I think about that, and, but obviously, those are, as far as authors go, right? And I think about that and I'm going, yeah, absolutely. Like, this was written from a place of the same concept. Like, I got to get this message out there. I need at least one person to read this and go, yeah, I know exactly what she's talking about. I know there's this thing inside of me that I've been putting, that I've been ashamed to embody in a complete way. And there's a story around why I have shame about embodying that true part of me in a complete way.
Hmm.
And that might very well be what the missing puzzle piece is, and why I feel like this, why I'm always getting into relationships that seemingly fail, why I always feel like there's a hole in my life even though I have everything.
Hmm.
I'm as and as I'm sitting on the call earlier with Kate, I'm